And I think this is where we transition a bit to talk about that fullback rotation, because with Alba being willing to lose the ball with him and the trust that Pedri is already set up in the right spot to win the ball back, you're willing to give Alba that license to run, especially if you now have Memphis also crashing in to the middle of the field or trying to combine with him out to the up left. And then for Dest, yeah, it's preseason, but so far what we've seen from him is I think Koeman has given him a green light to give the ball away, to try to dribble. That seems to be the thing he's good at. And I want to remind people too that Dest is still just 20 years old. He has a lot of work to do. And I think for as exciting as he was for those first 2-3 months, he's what we anticipated. He's now under the microscope that Kool-Aid's want him to improve. They want to see actual tangible improvements in his game. And I think, unfortunately, people are going to be out on Dest early. I just want to warn everybody that I'm the American, so I'm going to be steadfast to death until the day you would leave the club. But I do want to see Dest improve, and I'm willing to give him a long leash because of his age. But as far as what Koeman showed us against Stuttgart, Dest is the backup left back, and Sergi Roberto will get time in midfield and at right back. And I said it in the YouTube review, after 6 years of doing it, Roberto playing right back is not an experiment anymore. That's because as we're doing this, Emerson is being presented. And I get the sense that Emerson is your starting right back. I get the sense, and this is, it doesn't take a genius to know this, that Jordi Alba is your starting left back. And I think Dest is the backup at both positions. And where does that put Sergi Roberto? I know everyone says, get him out of my club. I know he's the guy that everyone's now turned on now that Rakitic is gone. But Roberto is going to be at FC Barcelona this year. I don't see how he's not. We go over it every time that even I know I'm giving you a lot here, but even the Coutinho news, that Coutinho is going to be incorporated in the club this year. Yeah. If you think that Coutinho's sticking around, and then you also believe that Sergi Roberto's leaving, you're taking crazy pills, because there's a double chance that Roberto is at the club as opposed to Coutinho this season. So, it almost combines the fullback rotation and the midfield rotation, because we're basically asking, where is Sergi Roberto? But in the same regard, I guess who cares if he's third or fourth or fifth on the midfield depth chart and he's third on the right back depth chart? Why are we worrying about Sergi Roberto, even though he's going to get paid as if he belongs there?
Yeah, with Coutinho, it's definitely more the case of the club not being able to shift him than not wanting to shift him. That's the core of the issue. But with Roberto, I agree. Yeah, he's not exactly the first name on the sheet, neither for me nor the club. They know that he's going to be, as you said, the third or the fourth choice in both positions, because he just cannot break through. In midfield, there's too much quality. I don't see him benching either of the players, any of them. And as fullback is the same thing. Whenever Roberto plays, he does give you something unique. He makes those runs, he usually inverts as well. There is an option to play him there, but he is more of a liability at this point. I think even in the friendly, you've seen that Stuttgart were kind of targeting his area. They were kind of, whenever they had a good chance, it was coming down that right side, Barcelona's right side, where Roberto was at. And with this, I feel like, yes, he is very young. He still can improve and he will improve. But if he's going to make it, I feel it has to be on the right side of the pitch. It won't be on the left side, because he is a right-footed player, and that limits him a lot when he's on the left side, because he relies on those crosses, he relies on the dribblings that he makes, and he's just not in the position to do that on the left side. Because I come back to the thing I was talking about with Griezmann wanting to go to the left. Dest wants to go to the right because of his dominant foot, and it makes it very difficult, to overlap, to provide width, and to beat defenders out wide on the left side. And then even if he does, it's difficult for him to cross as well, because he's right-footed. How is he gonna cross on the left side of the pitch? It's difficult. If he's gonna make it, he has to be on the right side. But he has stiff competition with Emerson, who I feel Emerson is a bit more well-rounded at this point. Maybe Dest has the attacking edge a bit, but Emerson is that kind of more powerful, physical profile that kind of gives you both things. He gives you in the attack a lot in the attack, but also he gives you a lot defensively as well. He can, at least. We'll see how that translates to Barca. At Betis, he was one of the best right backs in La Liga. We'll see how if he can kind of continue doing the same thing. But I've recently done a kind of data analysis of best young defenders in La Liga, and Emerson was, surprisingly to me, he was topping the charts and a lot of those metrics. And it surprised me, even when he's his possession was adjusted to Barcelona's possession, so kind of to see how the stats would look like, and it was impressive. So I'm hoping that he can translate that to Barca this season.
Yeah, I think Emerson does everything really well. I mean, I've watched him tens of times, both with Brazil and with Betis, and he does invert a little bit, but it's not something you would trust him to do the way that Roberto does. He can dribble one-on-one to the outside like Dest does, but that's not something that you consistently expect him to do. But he can do all of those things at a competent level, and he combines the best of Roberto, the best of Dest, but he also, of the three, is the best defender of that bunch as well. So he's not as quick as Dest, but he's also positioning wise as far as helping with build up. He's not going to do the same thing Roberto does. But yeah, I think all around people are going to be happy with Emerson. And right back is a position that I think because of Pep Guardiola and Man City, we overdid that reliance on fullbacks and how you have to have the best fullbacks in the world to compete. But because they're so limited, especially left back, because you're limited by that huge drop off where if you don't have one of the top 10 left backs in the world, now you've got a huge drop off in talent to the next one. And Barca still have Jordi Alba, who, I mean, I'll say it until blue in the face. You could be frustrated at all the emotional things, all the history, and all the things that Jordi Alba is, and all the lack of defense and getting in behind and who he is. But Jordi Alba is still one of the top 5. I mean, statistical analysis plus just what you can see and how he impacts a game. One of the top 5 left backs in the world. And on the other side, the drop off, and there's no disrespect to Nelson Semedo, but right back just became such a worrying spot for Barcelona. And Roberto at right back is such the weak link on the field. You just need to not be looking at right back. You need to say that, hey, that's the position that we're fine. We're stable. Is the right back going to win the game for us? Not necessarily, but the right back also isn't a position of liability. And I think that's exactly what Emerson is. You said statistically, I think I'm even underrating him a bit. But what I saw from Brazil, where he's not that Real Betis doesn't have superstars, but when he is surrounded with superstars, he does take an even larger step into the background, if you will. I think not that he gets lost, but I just think he kind of fits into a system. So I'm interested to see how often he overlaps. And it keeps going back to Messi. Until Messi shows up, we don't know. And so how will Emerson and Messi work? If Messi gets, we'll say, the best out of Emerson, Barca have one of the best right backs. I mean, immediately people will say that he's one of the best right backs in the world. That's what's going to happen. I mean, I guarantee it. That if he's starting to look good, is he one of the best right backs in the world? Not yet. He's not close. He's still young. He's still working on it. But if Messi can bring some stuff out of him, people are going to be singing the praises of Emerson very, very quickly.
Let's hope so. But I mean, if Messi's start on the right and you have him inverting, then Emerson will kind of have to overlap because otherwise Barca don't have a right wing again. That's the problem that was there with Semedo as well and with Roberto to an extent, because if you don't have an attacking fullback on the right and you have no natural winger in front of him, then who's going to occupy that spot? Who's going to provide the width on the right side?
How do you feel about Emerson's crossing? I am hot and cold on it. I mean, the numbers say that it's not terrible, but it's also definitely not a strong suit in his game.
Not a strong suit in his game. And the thing with Barca and crossing is they need a specific profile crosser. They don't need a traditional, loft the ball into the box kind of cross because they don't have any target man to aim for. So they need kind of deep crosses, like cutbacks to the edge of the box, and those low crosses as well. And that's the thing about Dest, for example. His crossing ability is much better, I feel, because he has a wider repertoire of crosses. He can do all sorts of crosses, and that suits Barca's style more than Emerson. I would say. I mean, but it depends. It depends. I can still see Emerson being the preferred choice, as you've said as well.
Yeah, so it'll be Emerson and Alba, as I said. I mean, Alejandro Balde is the one fullback we haven't spoken about, and I don't think there's anything changes about. I appreciate that changed my mind on him. My calculus has always been that he'll make some Copa del Rey appearances. He looks like he'll be in the first team eventually, and I think that spectrum of still not being ready for the first team, but eventually being a regular in the first team. I mean, that's a long bit of distance and that can take time. And so he's in that window, if you will, right? I put him in that he still needs time, but he'll get there, as opposed to players that need time and may never get there, or players that we're trying to push too quickly. Gabi, we'll get to him in a second. But for Balde, I think Balde, it's fine that he didn't play against Stuttgart. He might play against Red Bull Salzburg midweek. But yeah, he'll make a few appearances. But Dest is still going to be that backup left back. I think the belief is still that Dest, even being uncomfortable with his left foot, is still he just knows the system. He understands what it takes to be first teamer in FC Barcelona in comparison to Balde, who is still going through the growing pains, especially of defending at the top level. So we'll get to him, but how you liking Alejandro Balde?
I mean, from what I've seen in the friendlies, that he looked excellent. I mean, I think that everyone kind of stood up and took notice of that. But the fact that he didn't really, did he play against Stuttgart at all? He didn't, right?
No, he warmed up. He was about to come on like the 90th
exactly.
minute. What was that going to do?
That kind of makes me feel like Koeman doesn't really see him as a clear. I mean, it doesn't have to mean anything. It's just a friendly approach and all that. We shouldn't jump to conclusions, but it kind of makes me feel like he didn't play that much. So it makes me feel like Koeman has kind of relegated him to one of the lower options, if you will. So I do think I agree that it's going to be Alba and Emerson, and then Dest kind of covering both sides, and Roberto as well in the mix. So I like Balde. From what I've seen, he is a promising fullback, and he should definitely make the first team eventually. Is it going to be now? I'm not sure. I don't think he's going to be a prominent feature, but further down the line, yes, I would love to see him get minutes and eventually making it, of course.
Right. His preseason minutes don't tell anything about the way that Koeman views him. It just means that before the season begins, if Dest is going to be the backup for Alba, then he needs to be playing in the preseason to be prepared to do that in the regular season, more so than Balde, who will be playing left back with Barca B. And we'll see him there, and we'll see him get his minutes. And I think we'll see him again this season. No worries about that.